Imagine this. 381 Navy SEALs, trapped in the valley, ammo running dry, enemy closing in from every ridge. Command had already started writing loss report, but in that moment when every rule said stand down, one young pilot refused to accept defeat. Today's story is about Captain Delaney Thomas, a 26-year-old A-10 pilot they said was too emotional, too untested. Yet when the valley turned into a tomb, she drew a new line on the map and brought every single man home alive. Before we dive in, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I love seeing them. Army families spread across the world. 381 Navy SEALs were trapped in a valley that had turned into a kill box. Helicopters couldn't get in. F-16s couldn't shoot. Danger close. Command quietly began to draft a loss report. One person refused to accept it. Captain Delaney Thomas, age 26, A-10, Thunderbolt II, pilot, Irish-born and too emotional. According to the men who kept her on logistics duty, she was small beside her, Warthog, but she knew the airframe better than anyone on base. The A-10's 30mm G8 could write its name in steel. In the right hands, it could thread a needle at 50 m. They said she didn't have the hands. At 6:30 in the morning, the flight line baked under Afghan sun. Major Sanderson told her again she wasn't flying. Formation work with the new kids. I need steady leadership. Translation, not you. Delaney swallowed. The burn nodded and kept working. She'd already spent months doing what nobody asked. Night sims, terrain, studies, ballistic tables, memorized. Cold, postal basics for radio sanity. Checks and manual backup mapping case. The targeting pod died. She'd mapped valleys and ridge lines in the circle. Boxes where air support doctrine simply failed. No one wanted her analysis. She kept studying anyway. In a briefing, she asked a single question. What if this movement isn't prep, but a trap designed to isolate us where air can't help? Track equipment, captain, came the answer. So she did. And that night, she ran the same scenario again in a locked simulator she quietly taught herself to access. Friendly surrounded, missiles in the hills, danger close all around. She practiced killing the SAMs without breaking off the line. Practice laying a scalpel of 30mm between friendly strobes and hostile muzzle. Flashes, 47 iterations, each tighter than the last. At 1:47 in the afternoon, the base siren cut through routine in the op. Center, screens filled with the Coringa. Style Valley she knew by heart. Radio, SEAL Team 7 in detachments. 381 total surrounded by 800 fighters. 2 confirmed SAM sites. Enemy on 3. Ridgeo lines. Friendlies in a natural. Bowl. F-16s were 15 to 25 minutes out. Their rules. No shots within 100 m of. Friendly strobes. The SEALs at enemies. At 50, Sanderson asked for options. The room offered doctrine. Delaney offered. The A-10 denied, said Sanderson. We're not risking an untested pilot. A comms. Tech cut in. SEALs report 30 minutes of. Ammo left. Time ended the debate. Doctrine didn't. Delaney stepped out, counted 30 seconds in hall, and did. The math. 10 minutes from locker to. Wheels up. 12 to the valley. That left a knife-edge window. She wrote a one-line. Postscript to the letter she'd kept for months. If you're reading this, I acted because 381 Americans were dying while paperwork argued with itself. Then she suited up. Aircraft 297 was already fueled and armed. Full drum of 30mm. Mavericks rockets. She moved like muscle. Memory set to fast forward. Oil, hydraulics, chaff, flares, pod, INS. 90 seconds later, the hog was breathing. On Tower Freak, she said nothing. On guard, she said everything. Any station. Thunderbolt 7 departing Kandahar. Inbound Karingal. 381 Americans about to be overrun. Breaking rules to save them. Wheels up at 2:23 in the afternoon. Radio from the valley was going ragged. The The SEAL Ground Force Commander Trident. Actual kept it tight, but the cadence betrayed the count. Magazines running. Dry. F-16 lead checked in. Visual on. Target area. Unable to engage within 100. M-2 danger close. Delaney keyed up. Trident actual Thunderbolt 7. Mark your position. IR. I'll work your edge. Silence then hope. Thunderbolt 7 confirm. Danger close authority. I'm authorized to save Americans. Designate. As the bowl opened beneath her, the picture was exactly as she'd drawn it in. Red pencil at 3 o'clock in the morning. 3. Ridge lines overlapping arcs. Machine. Guns on the east, chewing craters into the SEAL position. She killed the first. Gun with a 2-con burst. Dust. Blossomed. Fire stopped. Roll. Pull. Second run. Enemy assault team on the north slope. 70 from friendlies. Short. Stitch across the rock. Movement. Stopped. No blue strobes in the beaten zone. Thunderbolt 7. Solid hits. Trident. Actual called. Western Ridge 75 was where jets got people killed. It was where the hog lived. She broke left into a steep slice, line reticle just below, a rock lip, and pressed a half-second burst that printed a straight line of tungsten between friendly strobes and hostile muzzle flashes. The valley paused, everyone down there realizing A-10 had just put rounds inside a zone. Nobody touched. Kandahar to Thunderbolt 7. Sanderson's voice cracked in her ear. Return to base immediately. You are not authorized. She flipped the command net, quiet and left only the cast and ground. Frequencies alive. She was passed. Permission. Trident actual continued. Designations. I'm rolling east again. She worked the same playbook she'd written in secret. Kill the air defenses first. A Maverick. Into a hot SAM site on the southern spur. Then terrain mass behind a ridge. To break the other site's lock. Open A. Lane. Stitch their Jeline positions at. Anchor the crossfires. Not the ones that look meanest on the scope. Keep the gun short. Half-second taps. No hero. Strings. Let the dust hide friendlies. Let the sound collapse the assaults. Morale. Talk the ground. Trident. Push. 3 teams west under my fire. Stay below the rock lip. I'm walking. Rounds uphill ahead of you. Within minutes, the radio cadence shifted. Less panic, more verbs. Moving. Set. Next bound. In the op. Center. Radar tracked a single A-10. Carving armored Zs in a valley of red. Icons. F-16 lead came up on basenet. Observing A-10 placing rounds inside 25 of friendlies. Either suicidal or surgical. So far, surgical. SEAL comms fed into the room. Thunderbolt 7. That was the gun pinning. Our east. Clear to move. Copy. Shift. North. I'll take the crest in 3. 2. Gun. People who'd mocked Delaney went very quiet. Hayes from the Inspector General's office reminded Sanderson what the book required. Morrison pointed at the map and said what the moment required. She's the only asset that can do this. Support her or write the eulogy. Sanderson hesitated at the edge of career and conscience. Delaney's third pass erased the second. Sam with a pop-up Maverick from behind. Terrain. Now helicopters could start. Thinking. Not yet. First the exit cut. She talked Trident actual onto a seam she'd seen in satellite photos months ago. A shallow fold on the west ridge. No one would pick from overhead unless they'd walk the topo lines by hand. Thunderbolt 7. That fold is real. We can move in it. Do it. I'll rake the high. Points 50 ahead of you. 30 millimeter. Thudded it like a giant zipper closing. Across stone. Enemy fire stuttered then. Stopped. The SEALs bounded. For the first time all day, blue icons moved. An enemy element tried to roll the corridor. From above. 50 then 40 Delaney. Flattened the dive, brought Pipper low, and pulsed a 3/4 second burst at. Shaved the ridge like a carpenter's. Plain chips of rock. Then stillness. Good effect. Trident actual said. Breathless but steady. We're at the mouth, 2 more positions on the far lip. Mark with spark, she said. A bright IR. Winked, and she split by a body. Length. No friendlies hit. The corridor. Held. By the time the F-16s could legally help on the outer rings, Delaney had already decapitated the inner ones. Helicopters spun up, a dust trail of ground QRF snake toward the pickup. The valley changed from last stand to organized breakout in under 15 minutes. Back at base, Sanderson finally chose. He opened the support floodgates. Tankers, deconliction, full ISR picture. To Delane's net and a medevac plan keyed. To her corridor, Thunderbolt 7. A new voice said, calm, authoritative. Kandahar has you on primary. We're with you. Delaney didn't answer on the command net. She didn't have to. The only voices she needed were the ones on the ground. Trident Actual continue the push. I'm staying on your shoulder. The corridor existed barely. A carb zipper of silence through a mountain shouting. War. Delaney stayed welded to Trident. Actual shoulder, turning the valley into a sequence of micro-battles she could win in seconds. A pickup truck gun. Team crested high right too thin for A. Maverick, too fleeting for rockets. She dipped, let the pipper kiss the hood, and tapped. The truck folded. The gunner vanished in dust. West High is cold. She called. Move on the east spur. An RPG. Team tried to get clever with offsets. She beat the shot by instinct. Flare. Half-second stitch across the muzzle flash. Offset shooter. Neutralized. The SEALs advanced by bounds. 3 teams at a time, then 4, then all of them flowing like water, finding gravity's line. Every bound Delaney put 30 millimeters exactly, where it made the next 10 seconds. Survivable. Thunderbolt 7. We're at the LZ fold. Trinatural said, voice. Steadier now. 2 positions still raking. Us. Paint 1. An IR win. 1 pulse of. Gun and the ridge exhaled. Paint 2. The second wink. She shaved it off the mountain. LZ is workable. Trident Actual confirmed. Request. Rotors. Rotors inbound. Base finally. Offered on CSNet. Now committed. Chalks. 3 minutes. 3 minutes was a lifetime. If the ridge woke up again, Delaney made sure it didn't. The first, Chinook surfed its own brownout into the fold. Delaney pushed out the rim, hunting anything with line of sight into the LZ. 2 muzzle flashes blinked in A stand of rock. She pressed a diagonal, burst like a zipper across stone. The flashes died. Chalk 1 lifting taking. Aboard first sticks. Second Chinook in. Another dust cloud. Another moment where a single uncut thread could strangle the whole effort. Delaney found the thread. A PKM team shifting positions trying to get low. She snipped it with 3 rounds. Shock 2 lifting. We're green. A third bird risked it. Heavy and stubborn with weight. Delaney watched. Its climb like a guardian dog. Sam Seeker tone chirped. Last threat. Last card. She was already moving. Already low. Already behind the ridge. When the missile searched for heat and found only rock. She popped up. Found. The launcher team trying to displace and ended that chapter with a short, merciless tap. Trident Actual, she said. Voice level. Your last sticks on chalk 3. And 4. We're almost out. Almost was. Still not out. An enemy element tried to sprint the lip in desperation. Feet. Kicking shale. Rifles high. Delaney rode a bright short line between them. And the LZ. The sprint stopped. Chalk. For lifting. The air mission commander said, all aboard, we are off. The very last man rear security came out on a small tailgate bird that shouldn't have risked it. Delaney held her fire until they were swallowed by the brown cloud, then rad the ridge again, not to kill so much as to tell every watcher, not today, not while I'm here. And then the valley was only wind and dust, and the sound in the headset was breathing. Trident Actual came back on, clipped in, formal because some things demand ceremony. Thunderbolt 7 be advised. 381 souls accounted for. 0 friendly Kia. Drinks fill. We owe you our lives. Copy, she said. Nothing more. She kept flying lazy as turns high and wide until The last rotor was a dot, and the corridor had closed itself behind them, like a healed wound. On the way home, she took stock, fuel fine. One Maverick. Left, gunroom light flares low, hands. Steady, mind clear. She flipped the command net back on. Kandahar, Thunderbolt 7 RTB. Silence, then. Sanderson controlled, unreadable. Thunderbolt 7 cleared direct. The runway stretched ahead like a question. Touchdown was smooth, taxi slow, shut, down by the book. She pulled the canopy. Release and let the bases heat and the crowd's noise climb in. They were on, their feet on the line maintainers, ammo, troops, medics, clerks, pilots, cops, the chow hall crew. Not a pep rally, something older than that. Respect in its raw form. Delaney climbed down. Sanderson waited with the inspector, general, and half the senior staff. She stood at attention, ready for whatever came with it. You departed without authorization, Sanderson said. Voice. Carrying. You violated orders. You engage at ranges that exceed every comfort zone we've written. Yes, sir. You also brought home 381 Americans, without a single friendly killed during the movement. A long breath. Then, Captain Thomas, you will answer for your decisions. But today, the only thing you'll answer is a question. Can you teach exactly how you did that? Yes, sir. Good. We're going to write it down so the next pilot doesn't have to learn it at 3 o'clock in the morning in a lock simulator. The formalities came anyway. Statements, timelines, questions designed to test whether she gambled or calculated. Delaney answered with math, map memory, and method, technique over theater. She didn't justify, she explained. The inspector general listened hard. You broke procedure, Hayes said at last. But your procedure was better for the problem you faced. We will not make a habit of rewarding insubordination. We will make a habit of fixing doctrine. No, metal talk. Not yet. Just work. 6 months. Later, the patch on her shoulder said what she'd built. Clothes, air support. Development. She taught from first. Principles. Read the ground like a book. Every fold a word. Every ridge a sentence. Every valley a paragraph. If you can't recite it from 12 angles, you don't know it. Gun discipline. Taps, not streams. Let dust be your smoke, not your blindfold. Kill the right nodes. The shooter that anchors a crossfire is worth 10 in the open. Talk ground, not ego. Say only what moves a team 10 meters closer to living. She demoed with clean tapes and ugly ones. She showed misses as well as hits. She was unsentimental about both. Pilots who used to smirk took notes. Pilots who used to lecture asked questions. The Marines sent their JTX. The Army sent their aviation reps. Special operations sent the men who had been there to sit in the front row and annotate the beats. An awards formation came and went. Quiet citations, a ribbon or two, nothing gaudy. The write-ups were careful where they needed to be and exact where they should. The consequence. On paper was a reprimand for the unauthorized launch. The consequence in practice was responsibility. Real responsibility. Sanderson found her by the sim bay after. I was wrong about you, he said without hedging. I saw risk where there was preparation. That's on me. Delaney didn't gloat. I was out of lane, she said. That's on me. Then let's redraw the lanes where they should have been. It was the closest thing either of them would call. Peace. Commands at once ignored her. Started sending problems, not compliments. A border valley with wind that lied. She wrote a page on crosswind gunnery nobody had asked for before. A city block with friendlies upstairs and hostels. Downstairs, she published a checklist that reduced fratricide risk with 3 radio lines and 2 angles of approach. A Nike's fill where strobes failed. She trained a technique to read pattern of life through thermal clutter and deacon lick with timing instead of lights. It wasn't heroics. It was craft made, public. An analyst pinned the number on a wall because some truths should be physical. 381 extracted. 0 friendly Kia during movement. People touched it when they walked past. the way you touch a relic without saying a prayer. Delaney avoided that hallway when she could, not out of modesty, out of accuracy. Plenty of days the math would have rolled the other way. Skill mattered. So did timing. So did luck. So did men on the ground who refused to break under a sky that had just told them no. Doctrine shifted by inches, the only way big systems move. Minimum engagement. Distances became guidelines with context, not commandments without brains. Simulator syllabi added modules. She wrote in plain language. A-10 drivers learned to count rocks and breaths, not just weigh points in milliseconds. New lieutenants arrived wide-eyed, proud of their patches and eager to be told what mattered. Delaney gave them the same line. Every class, technology is a promise, not a plan. The plan is you learn the ground, learn the gun, learn the people on the net. Then when a Valley asks a question nobody wants to answer, you'll have one ready that keeps Americans alive. When she walked the flight line, she still ran her hand along titanium like it was a living thing. She still checked bolts. She still wrote notes in margins no one else would read. Some mornings a letter on her desk had no return address. Inside, a coin, a patch, or a single sentence from someone who had been there. You showed up. She kept those in a plain box. She never opened on days she flew. One evening, much later, she taxied back after another training hop and cut the engines. The line crew chief grease on his sleeve, sun etched into his grin, looked up and said what needed saying. Once and never again. Ma'am, it's good to know if we ever get pinned bad. You've already been where the map stops. Delaney smiled. The map never stops. She said sometimes someone just has to draw the next line, and that was the point. Not that one pilot broke rules. That one pilot proved a rule. Beneath all the others when lives hang in the balance, skill married to courage can turn a tomb back into a road home. And that's the heart of the story. Captain Delaney Thomas showed the world that skill and courage can redraw the map when lives are on the line. 381 Americans went home because one pilot refused to quit. If the story moved you, salute in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more true military stories of valor and sacrifice. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget those who serve.